Today, I want to do a practice which is mostly somatics with just a little bit of yin yoga blended in. A lot of people ask me, what is somatics? So think about it this way. We have hundreds, if not thousands, or maybe even millions of movement traditions which are devoted to the musculoskeletal system, whether it be to get stronger or faster, or just to build technical skill or get a ball down the field. All of these movement systems are really focused on the physical body. Somatics is a movement system which prioritizes nervous system learning. It's not that we're not affecting the musculoskeletal system in somatics, it's just that the primary goal is to impact the nervous systems. This is incredibly important for individuals who live with chronic pain, because we understand that pain that has become chronic is really more about a hyper-vigilant nervous system and less about the physical tissues, which is why I'm so passionate about the somatic traditions. So this is a lesson that I have created for my clients and my students who have neck pain. You'll need to have a blanket, and that blanket will go to the front of your mat. And then you're just going to lay down on your back with your head on that blanket. And have your feet flat to start. They don't need to be in any particular position. They just need to be flat on the floor. And begin to notice your breath. Sometimes to notice the breath, we have to change the breath, and that's okay. I'd like for you to notice especially any movements or sensations that occur in the area of the upper chest and back, neck, jaw, or even in the face as you breathe in and out. And as you're noticing any sensations, I wonder if you can become aware of any thoughts that you have about your upper chest, upper back, neck, jaw, or face. And what do I mean by thoughts? Often we have some predictions about our neck. Oh, this is probably going to make me more sensitive. Or we think, oh, I got to stretch this neck. Another thought might be, oh, my neck is so tight because I've been sitting at my desk all day. These are all thoughts that you have. And what about any feelings that you have about your neck, upper back, upper chest, jaw, or face? If you're someone who has neck pain or who has had it in the past, it's likely that you might be feeling a little bit of vulnerability or fear knowing that you're going to be working with this area. So we always think of the neck as muscles and bones, maybe some connective tissues. Certainly there's a lot of nerves that go through the neck and some very important blood vessels. But the neck is actually the combination of those three things, at least as far as your experience is concerned. The neck is your musculoskeletal system, vascular system, nerves, thoughts, and feelings. So, as you keep your mind somewhat trained on this area that we're working with, I'd like for you to begin a few pelvic tilts. So, for a posterior tilt, your low back presses into the mat and your tail lifts up a little bit. It's not going to lift away from the floor. Your butt isn't going to lift away from the floor, but your tail will turn up to the ceiling. And for the anterior tilt, you're going to find a little arch in your back and your tail is going to move down toward your mat. As we begin to move into our sequence here, I want to let you know that it's really important that your blanket is not too thick under the back of your head. So if you had it really thick for comfort during your meditation, now is the time to make it a little thinner. So your head is really just on the same plane as the rest of your spine. It's not overly lifted. It's not falling backwards so that your chin is jutting up. It's just neutral, okay? And I wonder if you notice with these pelvic tilts that you might feel also a little bit of movement in your neck. So when you anterior tilt, you might feel your neck flex, your chin drop to your chest. And as your low back pushes down, you might find that your chin lifts up and your neck extends. Let your pelvis do the work for now. So whatever movement is happening in the neck is just passive. And then for a few, I'm going to actually let you use your neck. So next time you're anterior tilting your pelvis, you'll flex your neck, draw your chin towards your chest, and engage your deep neck flexors. And then when you posterior tilt, you're going to lift your chin and push your head just so lightly into the blanket, just so lightly. Let's do 2 more like that. Get those deep neck flexors engaged on the anterior tilt. You might even feel like you have a double chin. And then push down and let your chin lift up and push the head into the blanket just a little. Okay. And then just come to stillness and rest for a moment. Notice any sensations, feelings, or thoughts in this area that we're working with. Now I'll have you bring your 2 knees into your chest. And if it's difficult for you to have your 2 knees into your chest, you could just have one into your chest and you can alternate. And with your knees into your chest now, your pelvis is not very movable. Do you feel how it's just kind of stuck? That's what we want because we're going to isolate the movement just to the cervical spine now. So let's find those same movements, the flexion and extension in the neck without letting the pelvis do much. So let's start by lifting the chin and just very slightly pushing the back of the head into the blanket. And then tucking your chin. Now imagine that the back of your head is resting on the face of a clock. So as you lift your chin, you're starting to move toward the 12 o'clock hour, which is closer to the top of the head. And as you tuck your chin, you're going to be moving the back of the head to the 6 o'clock hour, which is closer to the nape of your neck. Rocking up and down from 12 to 6, and your head is sliding. You're not keeping one central point of your head on the floor at all times. You're sliding the back of your head, moving to 6, and then rolling, sliding up to 12. The clock face could stay relatively similar. It could be stuck to that blanket, but the head is sliding, rolling on that clock face. Let's do a couple more, and I want to remind you that when we work with the somatic tradition, we are not targeting musculoskeletal system, we're targeting the nervous system, specifically to facilitate nervous system learning. So think about, what do you want to teach your neck in these movements right now? Probably not to go deeper or to facilitate more sensation, but to be calm, peaceful. And then the next time your head passes through neutral, you're going to stay. And you'll bring your 2 feet flat. 2 feet flat onto that mat, and step your feet out as wide as your mat. And your feet are going to stay as wide as your mat until I give you permission to bring them closer. Okay, so keep them nice and wide. Let your arms just rest for a moment. And now imagine that clock face behind the back of your head on your blanket. 12 is at the top, 6 is at the bottom, which would put 3 to the right, out toward that right ear. 9 to the left, towards your left ear. And start to rock your head a little side to side between the 3 to the right and the 9 to the left. Again, we're not trying to find a deep stretch here, although I do have some tensioning work available for you in this practice. We're not there yet. So for now, just practice moving between 3 and 9. It's a bit of a roll, it's a bit of a slide of the back of your head, okay? Now place one hand low on your pelvis so that you kind of feel like you're aware of your pelvic bones in the front. And place one hand at the way upper chest so you can feel your collarbones with your palm. It might feel like you've got your hand around your neck a little bit, but keep it mild. So this time, as your face turns to the right, to that 3 o'clock, let your pelvis and your collarbones tilt also to the right. And as you do this, you're pushing a little bit with your left foot, so your left glute and your left shoulder blade leave the floor entirely. And then bring your pelvis, collarbones, and mandible, that's your jawbone, all back to the center and tilt now to the left. So we'll treat the mandible, the jawbone, the collarbones, and the pelvis as one. So even though you're turning your head now, you're not really rotating your cervical spine yet. So we're just kind of rolling side to side like a barrel. And we're breathing. And we're aware of the neck and the shoulders, the jaw and the face. Let's just do a couple more of these little barrel rolls. This is always a good way to kind of soften the neck. So if you don't have time for a full practice, if you can get down into your bed or onto the floor and just do these barrel rolls and let your neck just move with the rest of your torso, it can have a really nice calming effect on the neck if you're having a bad day. Now, the knees are going to windshield wiper, so they're going to go a little bit further into the movement, and also your face is going to turn further into the movement for these last few. So when you go over to the 9, for example, your knees drop and point to the left. Your face turns a little further to the left, so now you're kind of mashing your temple into your blanket. Let's just do a couple more of those. So knees windshield wiper to the right, to the 3, mash down into that 3 o'clock with your temples. So basically your clock face got a lot bigger, if that makes sense. And the next time you are to the right, you're going to stay to the right. Your feet are still wide on your mat. I didn't give you permission yet, right, to bring them in. Knees are still pointed to the right. Face is turned to the right. Now let your arms open up and your left shoulder blade find the mat. Left shoulder blade find the mat into your windshield wipers, which you've done gazillions of times before if you've been listening to the podcast or watching my YouTube channel. Now keep the knees pointed to the right. But again, allow your head to turn / slide between the 9 and the 3, side to side. Notice any sensations, thoughts, feelings. I notice a lot of noise in my neck. I've got a little arthritis in my neck, and so it's a little extra noisy. It doesn't hurt. Arthritis is not usually painful, believe it or not. It's actually pretty normal for adults to have some arthritis, and for the vast majority of us, it is not painful. Most of us don't even know we have it. So if you've got a little noisy neck, it's okay. It's just fine. Next time your face is turned to the right, I'm going to have you actually stay with your face turned to the right. And just rest. So when I talked about tensioning the neck a little bit, we're going to work specifically with a muscle group. There's two heads of this muscle group called the sternocleidomastoid. And it's one of the areas that give people the most trouble from what I have seen. It's kind of on the side of your neck, and it's very, very powerful, very thick. And it starts up behind the back of your ear on the mastoid, and it comes down to the clavicle or the sternum, depending on which head of the muscle you're talking about. So with your left side collarbone a little bit depressed and your face turned to the right, you're just a little bit very gently tensioning sternocleidomastoid. It's not very much, and it doesn't need to be very much. Let's just take one more breath. And I'm going to have you actually roll onto your right side. So just keep going onto your side. You might want to bump your hips over to the center of your mat first. And then on your side, your right arm is kind of reaching out in front of you. Your blanket is now not thick enough, right? Because your head needs to be level with the rest of your spine. So go ahead and make that blanket thick enough, but make it organized. It can't just be a blob. It needs to be organized because we're still going to be sliding the head, okay? And just get your left arm out of the way by laying it on your side. And the clock face is still on your blanket. It's still actually on that blanket now. The 12 is still at the top, 6 is down at the bottom toward your jawbone, which puts 3 to the right and 9 to the left. So that's to the back of your head. 3 is to the forehead, 9 is to the back of your head. And I'd like for you very gently at first, because this isn't that easy, to start to rock between the 12 and the 6. So you're going to kind of rock the head as you're resting on the side of your face to the 12 o'clock first. You might feel like your left side jawbone lifts up, right? You're tilting your head to the right. And then do the opposite and come down to the 6. So now your jawbone is moving down and you're sort of tilting your head to the left. Do you feel that? Do a few more of those. You could easily go too far here because these can be some sensitive movements. So your clock face, just for comfort, is really small, maybe the size of a watch face. Okay. So the next time you've got your head in neutral state. Now keep your head relatively steady. It's going to move around and slide. But now I'm going to have you move your ribs in and out of these side bends. So lift your ribs away from the floor. Your right side waist will make a dome away from the mat. And then press your ribs down toward the floor. Lift your ribs. You might find that you move to the 12 on the clock under your head, but it's more passive this time. Now drop your ribs. Okay, let's do a few more of those. And you might feel like you need to wiggle around with your shoulders. You might find that your left knee, your left hip are moving around. That's good because we don't move in segments, right? We move globally. And let that neck just participate passively, not really trying to do anything. Yeah, okay. The next time your ribs are pushing down and you're on the 12 o'clock, you're actually going to stay. Remember, the 3 is toward the back of your head on the clock, okay? So we're going to go from the 12 o'clock to the 11 o'clock to the left, toward your forehead, and then to the 10 o'clock, and then try to get to the 9 o'clock. And then come back to the center of the clock so your ear is resting again. Come up to the 12. Let your ribs help if they want. Go 11, 10, 9. Come back to the center and rest. 12, 11, 10, 9. The clock face is very small. Just do a couple. 12, 11, 10, 9. Center, 12, 11, 10, 9. Come back to the center, just rest. And then roll all the way back onto your back. All the way back onto your back with your feet flat. Let your arms just rest and notice your neck. Notice upper chest, back, shoulders, jaw, face. It is highly likely that you're having a different experience on the left versus the right. And that's what we want. That's good. And again, begin to turn/slide your head between the 9 and the 3. So right and left. Your blanket, if you haven't already corrected it, is probably too thick for what we're about to do. So go ahead and make sure your blanket isn't too thick now. It's that neutral height. And then place your hands, one as low on your pelvis as possible, one so that you can notice your collarbones. And when you turn your face to the left, it's not because you're rotating your neck, it's because your collarbones and your pelvis are tilted to the left toward that 3. And as you come back through center, it's the same. All 3 platforms, jawbone, collarbones, and pelvis are tilting in lockstep. You probably have to push with the outside foot. And you're beginning to facilitate this windshield wiper movement. And I haven't given you permission to bring your feet in closer yet, have I? So the feet need to be as wide as your mat. Now add a little bit more windshield wipery movement and also make your clock face bigger. So when you go to the 9, you're going to roll to your left temple. Excuse me, that's the 3. And when you go to the 9, you're going to roll all the way onto your right temple. So confusing, right? If you get confused, believe me, I'm with you. Roll to the left, maybe pushing the temple slightly into the blanket. Next time you're to the left, you have pushed your temple down, your feet are nice and wide, your knees are pointed left. Let the legs just soften now. Let the arms open up, right shoulder blade finds the mat. For your windshield wipers, and we've got the hip and the right collarbone in a bit of a tricky position because they're sort of set now, aren't they? But we'll turn the head. So right hip, right collarbone are steady, and now we move the head more independently. On this side, often people have a little bit of a stiffer, less compliant SCM, sternocleidomastoid. So there might be a little bit more sensation here, but I would encourage you to keep it very mild. Don't start to push into that stretch. That's not getting you where you want to go. I promise. Keep it mild. It's so important to keep it mild. If you think about the neck, we know that the nervous system, with regard to the neck, we know that evolution has deemed it very important because there is a great deal of sensory architecture devoted specifically to sensing the neck, everything from its position to danger signals, oxygenation, everything. So the neck is very, very important to humans, right? So when we go in with that really big, deep, strong stretch, keep your face turned to the left next time it's there. We just kind of create sensitivity, especially if we're already sensitive, just because the neck is a place which is incredibly important for your survival. So we keep it mild in the neck. And you might be feeling a little bit of that SCM. Here's your final breath. All right, so this time, maybe you're going to bump your hips a little bit over to the right so you can turn onto your left side. Left arm is reaching out in front of you. Blanket is not thick enough now. Make it thicker, but also organized. Make sure you're resting on the side of your head. And there's a clock face there with the 12 at the top, 6 towards your jaw. The 3 is towards your forehead, the 9 is toward the back of your head. Right arm rest on your side just to keep it out of the way now. And let's just isolate the neck. So rock to the 12. So you'll feel your jaw, your right side jaw lift up like you're tilting your head to the left. And then do the opposite roll / slide down toward the 6. So your head is tilting slightly to the right, but it's not lifting up certainly. Go incredibly slow. I know when I teach these movements in person, my experienced somatic practitioners go very slow, very mild, and people who are newer to the practice go really fast and not mild and are not really integrating the movement the way that we need to get the most of our somatic practice. So go really slow. That's to be sophisticated, to go slow, to feel, to experience, to integrate. So let the head come back to neutral, and then let's let the ribs do all the work. So ribs lift up, ribs push down. Do just the ribs a little bit and just notice what happens naturally with the neck anyway. And then when you're ready, you can start to augment. So when the rest of your spine side bends, your neck is really compelled to side bend the same way. Unlike with the movement in the sagittal plane we did, where we can kind of separate them. In the side bend, if your ribs are lifting, also you want to tilt your head to the left, right? And in the, as you push your ribs down, you want to tilt your head a little to the right. That's not even conscious. That's just your musculoskeletal system. We have a rhythm in the spine. Okay. Next time your ribs are lifted, you're on the 12, stay. And then we're going to go toward the 3. So let's go 12, 1, 2, 3. And come back to the center and rest. Your ribs can rest too whenever you need to. 12, 1, 2, 3, and rest. And listen, however much your ribs want to help, let them. Let the right knee move, perhaps. It might slide a little bit on the left knee. Keep it pretty mild, though, so your clock face is pretty small. Let's just do a couple more. You don't need many of these. Again, when working with the neck, we need to be really conscious of just how sensitive it can be. And then rest and roll back onto your back. Make your blanket neutral. This time, here's your permission. Step your feet in. Step your feet in as close together as you can get them. Bring your hands once again to pelvis and collarbones. Let your pelvis tilt to the right. Let the right thigh open. Your left knee will stay mostly pointing up. Let the collarbones tilt right. Let the face turn right. So it's kind of like a half butterfly on that right side, right? And then keep the hips and collarbones tilted to the right. Keep that right knee open, but turn your face to the left. Bring everything back through center. Everything tilt left, except the right knee. The right knee stays pointed up. And then the face turn to the right. Everything finds center. Tilt everything right. Except for that left knee, turn the face now to the left. Center. Tilt left. Turn the face right. Center. Do one more of each on your own. Back through center. And then let both knees open up wide. Feel the two innominate bones almost spread apart. Those are the two front of your pelvis bones. Allow the collarbones to spread out wide as your arms reach out to the sides. And the mandible as well. It feels like it just melts outward, that jawbone. Notice upper chest, upper back, neck, jaw, face. There's probably lots of sensations here now. Sensations tend to stick around longer in the neck. I don't know if you've noticed that. So your job now in your somatic learning process is to remind your neck that it's safe to move, it's safe to feel all things. It's safe. I'd like to invite you to stay either in the supine butterfly or to send your legs out long for a shavasana. As always, it is my great pleasure and honor to guide you in practice. Thank you.